Tonight, I'm going to go over how I got it all wrong when it comes to Seth Rich and Q's latest post and his previous message because there's so much information there, and we're going to go over it tonight, especially after this press conference. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. For those of you who don't know, every one of these episodes starts out the exact same way. I thank you guys who hit that subscribe button. First of all, there's always new people, so I always have to thank people who have done it, and I realize that you guys are what make this channel possible. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please come here on the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That way, as soon as these videos get posted, you'll be notified. Because as soon as information is made available to me, I make it available to you. Now, guys, I watched this press conference, and a lot of people are blasting it from all different directions, right? A lot of people are saying that it's disinformation or that it's fake, right? But, you know, we're sitting right here on this. But a lot of people are saying basically that they're lying and so on and so forth. But this is it, guys. When little bits of evidence come out like this, we can put it together for ourselves, and we have to use our own critical thinking. And we have to look back and say, okay, maybe we got something wrong somewhere down the line. And I can tell you that after watching this press conference, I think a lot of it makes sense, where I believe I've gotten my interpretations wrong, especially in regard to what QAnon has been saying. And QAnon was mentioned directly in this press conference. So if you guys don't think our message is being heard, stick around. You're going to hear that. Also tonight, we're going to look at Sacha Baron Cohen's latest hit piece on the Republican right, where he goes around America duping people. And one of the worst things he did was dupe Sarah Palin into believing that he was a disabled veteran, thereby making a mockery of our military and dishonoring veterans across the nation who've actually served and sacrificed for our country. But those are basically what we're going to cover here tonight. And also we're going to talk a little bit about Hillary and what her whole scheme has been all along. Now, before we get into all of that, let's start here with this, okay? We're going to start right here with this latest post. Remember, this post was left up since July 4th. Therefore, there's a meaning that's yet to be realized within it. And this is a previous post. You have to remember, this is all the way back from almost the beginning of Q. So here's the post from November 9th, right? And this covers basically exactly what we're going to talk about and how I got it all wrong. And I know that this is probably the correct interpretation now because of watching this press conference and being able to not just take this press conference and this random source, this guy who is basically just some person on a phone that nobody can verify, but through juxtaposing that against all the months and years of research I've done into specifically QAnon more broadly, how this all this information in general. And what I've actually come to realize is that Q has been telling us who did it all along in a cryptic way. It wasn't MS-13. And that's why disinformation was real. That's why disinformation is necessary. Now, the reason why Q points to this one, in my opinion, humble opinion here, is that it says what questions were asked here, but it's telling us that two parts here, that the information that Q gave us about the U.S. military and the National Guard being activated was true, or was false, and being used. But the Saudi Arabia story about going and purging the princes ended up being true. And this is, why was this necessary? What questions were asked re Saudi Arabia prior to Saudi Arabia events? So it was like a way of initiating a process, right? Well, the same thing has happened with Seth Rich in these posts, and I want to get through this, but you have right here, they're already coming out. Will Sommer, who was at the press conference asking questions, has already written this article talking about how the event fizzled. Well, it didn't fizzle. Actually, it exposed an incredible amount of truth. And I think we can all look at this information and say, okay, here we go. We have the evidence now. Now, that being said, the evidence doesn't amount to that much at this point. But if you put a lot of this stuff together using your own critical thought, you can put together that there was something else being given to us as a message from Q. Now, here in this video, it goes through the whole press conference. It's about an hour and 40 minutes. There's a lot of stuff in here, and we're going to watch one clip out of it, which talks about QAnon, where he asks about QAnon. But it was when I heard this question, and a lot of what this person who was talking on the phone, a lot of what they were saying clicked for me. And what was being said? Well, the whole press conference, I'm going to kind of summarize a lot of it for you because we're not going to sit here and watch an hour-long press conference. But the breaking news that was put out here was, and my apologies in the last video, I didn't really give a lot of credit to the main investigators, one of which being somebody who is an awesome person and a great investigator and a great reporter, Matt Couch, and him and his team from the America First Media group. They actually got together and they've been investigating Seth Rich from the beginning. They're one of the main reasons that this individual who has called or is leaving, who's calling into this press conference, is getting involved. Now, who is this person who's calling into the press conference? Okay, so basically, what this person is saying here, and the person running the conference, Jack Berkman, is putting together this press conference with the people from America First Media Group and this individual who's calling in, assumedly under a fake name, and giving them information as he claims to be an insider. Now, what is he an insider to? Well, according to his statements in this press conference, he is an insider in the basically the intelligence community. That he won't say what position he holds, but he says that he works in the intelligence agency, and that two individuals who he knows who work for the DEA and the ATF, who were involved in deep state operations, were bragging to him about their involvement in the alleged involvement in the murder of Seth Rich. Okay, so let's just take that as a statement all on its own. So the person calling in, who they're representing and keeping anonymous over here between Jack Berkman and American First Media, they're all working together to protect this individual's identity. He's saying that he has two friends, apparently, who were together, who work in this deep state, and that they were tasked with basically taking Seth Rich out and getting the thumb drive back from him that contained the WikiLeaks emails, and that those WikiLeaks emails were never meant to get out, basically. And they knew it weeks in advance that he had those emails and that they had been monitoring. And this all stems back, according to this individual who was giving the interview on the phone, to Rod Rosenstein when he was the U.S. Attorney in Maryland. Now, why is that important? Well, Rod Rosenstein apparently was working for a bunch of Republicans, which now this is all starting to make so much more sense, looking at the clues that Q's given us, the information that we've gotten, so on and so forth, that Rod Rosenstein actually isn't connected with Debbie Rossman Schultz or Hillary Clinton, in that this source actually alleges that they didn't have anything to do with the actual murder of Seth Rich, which actually sounds feasible when you think about it. Just bear with me here. What were they protecting? They were very busy protecting themselves from the WikiLeaks, the emails themselves exposing crimes, and from the basic, the implications of the pay for play that was in the WikiLeaks. That is on its own. Then you have enter Rod Rosenstein and his little power sphere inside of Washington area, in Maryland specifically. What this source, the witness, the person who is making these allegations on the phone, says is he alleges that Rod Rosenstein was a big time power broker, and that dating all the way back to like 2006, certain members of the Republican Party had learned how to not only infiltrate certain email accounts, but to basically mass collect every email account and to use that information as a source of power, because obviously information is power. So fast forward to Seth Rich and what's going on there. The source is saying basically that to that point, Rod Rosenstein had built up this huge network of influence and power by framing federally appointed judges. Now, there's a certain class of judges that are in the federal appointment, probably like an executive appointment. And those judges, I think, number is, according to this person, in the range of 120. And so in that, what the person is, what the source on the phone here, who's allegedly a witness to all of this and is trying to blow the whistle on it. He says basically that there's been a scheme going on for a long time to use these emails to influence and to corrupt and to blackmail certain power brokers inside of Washington in order to effectively own the government. Now, what would this have to do with anything? Well, it has to do with a lot. And if you think about what Q's been telling us, it all kind of plays into what the narrative is that we've been told. Now, there's a reason why Q doesn't talk a lot about Republicans and all that stuff, because that is the majority of the base here. I'm sure a lot of you out there may identify yourselves as Republicans, but you also identify yourselves as patriots and Americans, and you also identify yourselves as critical thinkers who are able to acknowledge when people, even of your own party, commit crimes, that you're not so blindly attached to that party that you have a blind rage against anybody who says anything negative about people you may think are respectable if they are indeed, in fact, not. So, what's being alleged here, though, by the person on the cell phone, and trust me, it's an hour and 40 minutes, so I'm trying to sum up a lot here, so if you guys bear with me, is that Rod Rosenstein was a power player. He was the one who ordered this on Seth Rich because Seth Rich was turning over the blackmail evidence that they used to control the Democrats. Don't you understand? I think it makes total sense. You imagine if they had figured out a way to hack these emails and to use them as a lever of power, then by taking those emails and exposing them to the world publicly, then you would remove that lever of power, wouldn't you? Because then they couldn't use it as blackmail anymore because the truth's already out there. People already know. Well, go past Seth Rich, and now everyone does know, and those levers of power have been removed. But this means so much if we look back at what Q's shown us in the past and told us about Seth Rich. Now, according to the source in this news conference, one of the sources is I believe a DEA agent who was tasked with basically investigating gangs, and most specifically the MS-13 gang. And that may be the insinuation that Q's been making this whole time, connecting MS-13. Maybe MS-13 didn't actually do the hit. Maybe Q's been telling us that this was a higher level hit. It was ordered by people like possibly Rod Rosenstein. What if that were the case? What if the truth were there? And what if Rod Rosenstein now is trying to cover his butt because he's been in charge of a big blackmail scheme in Washington for a long time? What if? And then what if Hillary Clinton and Rod Rosenstein don't get along at all, even though they both recognize they're both corrupt as could be, but they're competing corrupt factions who have disdain for one another, and that leads to the infighting that has played to our benefit for the Trump administration and Q and everyone trying to expose this, because the infighting has taken their focus away from the outside forces as in us who are coming to expose the truth. Now, Q has told us and given us all this information, and it's up to us to put it together. So I want you guys to let me know in the comments what you think of this. But for me, what makes the most sense is that when you hear Q telling us this information, it actually makes sense to me that he wouldn't just say MS-13 if it was actually the MS-13, because that's almost too blunt and direct for him, as in his blunt and direct time. There's always messages hidden. So what if the message hidden here was that the connection to the DNC was the fact that Rod Rosenstein was running a competing faction, ordered that hit to take out Seth Rich based on the fact that Seth Rich was going to basically get effectively null and void all of the blackmailing power that Rod Rosenstein had collected since his tenure in Washington. These are all allegations. This is all conjecture. There's no facts to back any of this up. But if this is the case, we need to investigate it further, and it's good that patriots are coming out. Now, what's interesting is people at this press conference, including Will Sommer, they asked their questions. They seemed kind of disinterested. It was a small conference room in a hotel, probably in Arlington or near D.C. And this is like pretty big. The guy's code name was Luke, and he was on the phone, and he was basically explaining everything. But what is very interesting is to hear this one part where he's asked about Q, and this is what kind of made it click for me. After watching the whole press conference, this was the one point where I was like, wow, he sees it a different way, but it actually is probably the message that Q's been trying to get across since the beginning. So, with that, let's watch this clip really quick.
This has been seized on by a lot of adherents of the QAnon conspiracy theory. Are you aware of that? Does Luke have any thoughts on that as an intelligence operative?
Luke, the question was as to the QAnon theory, which I know very little about. Do you any thoughts on your end?
I don't follow Q. The few little things that I've seen from him that deal with Rod Rosenstein or something within my view were not necessarily correct, or interpreted incorrectly from what I knew, so I didn't give it any attention.
Additionally, Jack, you're known as a...
Did you hear that? What I thought was so important in that one little phrase that Luke utters is the things I've seen about Rod Rosenstein were not interpreted correctly. And I may have been one of the people who misinterpreted it. I know I was. But I think now I've got a better idea of what's being meant by Q, especially in these messages. It's not how it seems. It is really more that there are competing factions. There was the Republican and the Democrat competing deep state factions who are fighting. You take all the players, John Kerry and Clinton and Washington Schultz and Pelosi and all of them on the left, and then on the right you have McCain and Cheney and Bush and all of that on the right, and they're competing, and that they're little factions, and that Rod Rosenstein was in charge of this, and this was why the hit was called. Now, this guy goes on to say that the two people who ended up doing this to Seth Rich are involved in things that go as far as money laundering, drug trafficking, treason, and sedition. So this is not the biggest deal for them, and that's why the reporters were asking, well, why would they tell you this, right? If it's such a big, important thing. It's like, well, I work in intelligence, and these guys, we brag about certain things, and to them and to us, the Seth Rich thing was like the pretty low on the totem pole as far as important events. Now, so a lot of this has to be vetted out. This is all going to have to go to court. This is all going to have to go at least in front of investigators and get some legs behind it as far as digging into who Luke is, if he's a reliable source, if what he's saying is true. But I can tell you that Jack Berkman was assaulted, he was shot by a person who was involved in this investigation early, and they're trying to silence the truth, it would seem. So if you guys have different takes on this, let me know down in the comments. But I wanted to go back, and I told you in the last video that I was going to cover this press conference if there was something to cover here, and I think that I found something to cover here. So you guys will have to let me know what you think, but I can tell you right now, this is what I've put together so far. And based on this, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's very possible that Seth Rich was taken out by assets that were controlled by Rod Rosenstein working at the DOJ or the DEA and the ATF. Possibly. This is a possibility. There's no facts to verify that yet. This is all based off of one witness's testimony and an unknown anonymous one. But, the Washington Post and the New York Times don't have problem writing stories off of anonymous sources. So I don't understand why I should have any hesitation to put this out there, at least for you guys to chew on. And let me know what you think, because I think this is a very possible scenario that we've covered here. And it's very possible that this is exactly what happened. So with that being said, my question is, why is Hillary not gone? Why is she still around? The crimes she's committed allegedly that are been swept under the rugs, please don't let her run for office in 2020. And maybe please do. I guess it's like, if she does, it's a guaranteed win for President Trump, because obviously you can't elect somebody who's going to go into jail as soon as they come into office. And I don't know how she's avoided coming under indictment to this point, other than that there might be sealed indictments waiting for her. But the reality is that her and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, these ideas that they're trying to press onto America are not American. They are the antithesis of American ideology. They're the antithesis of American exceptionalism and American culture that has prevailed and dominated the last 2 centuries, give or take. And if you want to have this kleptocracy, this socialist, utopian, communist dictatorship, then please, by all means, just go become citizens of other countries and go run there, because we don't want that here. We don't want socialism. We don't want communism. People who are so ignorant to believe that socialism can work are the same ones who end up wearing, the black mass out in the street and becoming Antifa fascists when they think that you don't agree with them politically and they have to shut you down physically with violence. So that's just a quick aside to that. Now, before we go, I have to talk about Sacha Baron Cohen in this latest series it's a Hollywood hit job, apparently, from what sources I've heard. Now, it's funny because I had respect for Sacha for a while. I thought he was a decent actor, but the closer I've gotten to God and the truth, the farther away I get from people like this who seem quite godless and seem quite okay with that, because they don't offer me anything. What they do doesn't amuse me. What they say doesn't stimulate my thought. And what they present is just basically childish. It's juvenile. It's immature. It has no basis in real thought. It doesn't advance human society other than to give some temporary distraction that is meaningless in the long run. Now, that being said, apparently he's set up all these interviews. He's been posing as a Trump supporter, and he's been saying all the things that I've been saying here on the channel, a lot of them, and he's been saying them with a sarcastic tone that millions and millions of people are going to see, and they're going to believe that it's a joke. Now, this is a common tactic when fighting the truth, is you put people out there as disinformation artists. Now, this British-born actor, who's not an American, and as far as I'm concerned is the least patriotic individual you ever meet in your life. He's probably closer to a socialist than he would be of anything else, and he's pretty much just a sick, sad individual with no real personality of his own. He only plays other personalities, and I'm sure there's nothing really there as a human being. But he goes out and he sets up political people, cultural figures. That's fine. But what he did to Sarah Palin was pretty unforgivable in my opinion. He dressed up and played a disabled vet in order to get some comedic bit from her. And that to me is sick. That to me is depraved. That to me shows what kind of sick, sad individual he's become. And he's just one of the many Trump derangement syndrome victims who's now getting probably millions of dollars from Showtime to put on this show that's basically a hit piece against people who have an alternate viewpoint of the facts as they have been reported to us. Now, inside of this, there's a lot about this story that I thought was fascinating, but let's read something right here that I thought was interesting. So they set up a fake website, right? And on this fake website, they had all these posts. So here's one. Obama's a Kenyan. Another one was Germans now living under Sharia law. Another one said signs that Hollywood is run by satanic elite. And another one says the military has been implanting mind-controlled neural dust to remotely control their victims. Now, to me, a few of these are not funny. And not only are they not funny, it would make me question whether Sacha Baron Cohen has been involved with some sort of satanic events in Hollywood, possibly as a part of his own sick pleasures or as part of an indoctrination or initiation into an elite group. And that now he's being, in order to cover his tracks, he has to mock it and make it into a laughable subject. To me, none of it's funny. Obama's nationality, he said in a speech before he became president that he was from Kenya. So I don't know why you would use that as some sort of a satirical play on us, those who actually are seeking the truth. Germans now living under Sharia law. Well, look up any reports about how it's going in Germany with the settling of the migrants from North Africa, and you tell me about how much Sharia law is actually going on there. Signs that Hollywood is run by the satanic elite. Well, there's plenty of evidence just to support that Hollywood is run by pretty deplorable and sick individuals if you just look at Harvey Weinstein. But then all you have to do is look at it a little bit deeper and look at Marina Abramovich and look at their spirit cooking ceremonies, the connection to the Podestas, connection to the elites, and what they've been doing to basically understand that the satanic elite are in Hollywood and that they may not run it, but they run a large swath of it through controlling people who are involved in their satanic evil. The military has been implanting mind control neurodust to remotely control their victims. Well, maybe not that, but we've talked about here on the Q boards about radio frequencies being used through cell phones, people with underdeveloped minds who are very susceptible to suggestion being used as a part of broader conspiracies. These things are not funny, and I don't take them lightly, and I don't think, or I don't appreciate, let's say, Sasha, this foreigner who is coming into our country and telling us about how awful our country is and how awful President Trump is through this form of political satire that really only asks the question, what is in Sacha Baron's closet, and how are we going to end up? Now, I'm not a fan of boycotts, but how are we all going to just avoid this individual from here forward? Because I have no interest in watching anything he does. I think most of his work is satanic in nature. If you look at it from just an outside perspective looking in, he's very willing to do sick and depraved things for money, and he has no moral compass when it comes to basically selectively filtering what he puts on camera as himself. And so he has no identity either. This man is identityless. He is sad. I feel bad for him. I think we should pray for his soul. I think he's a sick, lost individual, and I think that his work is going to speak for itself when people go back and read it and see or watch these videos and see how disturbing the disturbed images of this man. It's just like with gangster rap. I think Sacha Baron Cohen's in that same category, but for basically culture and political culture, because he is the political culture version of a gangster rapper who has no filter, has no sense of morality or ethical standard for himself or others, really. And he's just at the far limits of depravity to the point where he will engage in the most evil and sadistic, sick things for his self-benefit and self-gain at the expense of not only himself and his eternal soul, but at certain times others. So I think we all need to pray for him, and I just had to get that out because when you watch these pop stars that act like they know us and that they are going to make us laugh, and they understand that laughter is the key to deception, and we have to fight them with the truth, the cold hard truth as it is every day, because that's what we do here on this channel. But I want to thank everyone for watching. That pretty much wraps it up. I had to get that out there about the whole Seth Rich, the news conference, what I put together based off that, because I thought that you guys would really appreciate that. And if you want to leave your comments down in the comment section, that helps out big time. But if you want to help out the channel, right, there's a few different ways. The best way to do it, it's free for you, right? That's a that's a hook. It's easy, and it's like throwing me a buck. It makes the biggest difference ever. If you have not hit that subscribe button, come here and hit the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell for notifications too if you want to get notified when these videos get posted. The second best way is to scroll down at the end of this video and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights in the comment board, because like I say, we have our own QAnon research board at the end of each one of these videos where we talk about not just the Q post, but we talk about what's going on in the news. And also, before I forget, the next video we're going to be covering obviously the biggest story out there, that Lisa Page has refused to comply with the subpoena and she will not be testifying. But guys, it was a closed door thing. We weren't going to see it anyway. That's why I didn't really want to cover it or make it some thing. We'll cover it more in the next episode because I'm going to talk more about Peter Strzok, especially as we get into Thursday and Peter Strzok testifying in front of Congress. So I just had to throw that in there for you guys as well. And if you're scratching your head going, what's QAnon? Yeah, I encourage you to come here on the landing page, watch this video. It's going to explain what QAnon is. Even if you know what QAnon is, there's helpful information there about how to get involved, how to research, how to follow the post live and all that. So So you do that. And if you want to get caught up to where we are up to this point, I encourage you to go watch the last few videos. You're going to definitely find out things you didn't know there as well. Now, if you want to help out the channel, another great way to do is to come over here to Twitter. Find me at Justin_formed. That's at Justin_formed on Twitter. Give me a follow. That helps me out big time. I really appreciate it. Also, I want to say thank you again to everybody who's made the GoFundMe so successful. We have full funding now for the justinformednews.com website. I'm going to leave this up for a little bit longer because anything that goes over the $5,000 is definitely going to be helping for future costs related to the website. But the website is going to be under development now. I'm going to work with the teams and we're going to basically put together a great website, and it's going to probably launch in the next month or two. Sorry for the delay, but it takes time and I want it to be really good. So you guys stick around for that. If you want to get involved with that, go to gofundme.com/justinformedtalk and you can contribute there. That helps out big time. But thank you to everybody who put us over the top. And if you guys want to keep pushing it over the top even more, I really encourage you to. It makes a huge difference and allows me to get around all the censorship and all the things that I have to deal with on a regular basis when dealing with being on YouTube and other platforms. Now go to patreon.com if you want to support us financially. This is the best way of all to do it. This is a monthly donation. This is what is like the lifeblood of the channel. Without the people here on Patreon, this channel couldn't keep going. So you come here to Patreon, patreon.com, search Justin Form Talk, click this button to become a patron. Once you get here, you can make your donation, and then it's just a monthly donation. So give what you can, and it makes a huge difference, and it actually is what keeps the channel going. Like I said, every month that money goes to do a whole bunch of stuff, including help me pay for the trip that I'm going to Washington, D.C. On September 6th through 8th at the American Priority Conference. So if you guys want more information on that, go over here on Twitter and you can find them at Priority Conf. And go to, if you want to get involved in this conference, it's going to be a great time. Okay, so let me explain it. In Washington, D.C. on September 6th through 8th, I'm going to be participating in a panel discussion there at this conference, but there's going to be dozens and dozens of great people there, including C.J. Pearson, Jack Posobiec, Lee Stranahan, Matt Couch, Ann Coulter, Roger Stone. I've heard all these names mentioned, and they're going to be there, and it's going to be a great time, and it's going to be a great opportunity for all of us to get together and talk and to discuss the future. What are the priorities that we're looking at for the future of the country? And just a lot of interesting people sharing a lot of interesting dialogue. Now, if you want to get more information on the conference, go to AmericanPriority.com. And you can sign up there. And if you guys want to use a special code, this is a code that's just for people here on this channel. If you want to get a discount and come, and you can be there on September 6th through 8th in Washington, D.C. at the Marriott in downtown D.C., then certainly I encourage you to use the code WWG1WGA, as in where we go one, we go all. Again, that's WWG, the number 1, WGA. So if you guys want to use that code, it will get you a good discount on your tickets, and you can get involved that way. Now, that being said, I want to just say thank you all for watching, and we're going to talk about the most important thing now at the end here, because I always save the best for last. And what I'm going to talk about tonight is faith. And why does faith triumph all? And why is God's grace such an important part of faith? Well, there's a very complex and long-winded way of explaining it, but to simply put it, God's grace comes to us through our faith. And our faith is what is integral in our ability to have that trust in God and to form that relationship that will open us up to the blessings. Because believe it or not, in order to really get close to God, it doesn't take much. You just have to have an open heart, and you have to have a willingness and a desire to be saved and to embrace the sacrifice that Jesus made for your sins so that you may have eternal life, and to embrace that through baptism and through stewardship and through steadfast devotion and through acts of kindness and through just living a good life that's according to God and God's teachings and God's will. So if we can do that for ourselves, then that is the faith that will triumph all. And let's read about faith triumphing out of Romans chapter 5. And I just thought this verse was so great. So it's starting on verse 1, and I think it goes up to verse 5. It says, therefore, since we have been declared righteous by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. Also through him we have obtained access by faith into this grace in which we stand, and rejoice in the hope of the glory of God. And not only that, but we also rejoice in our afflictions, because we know that affliction produces endurance. Endurance produces proven character, and proven character produces hope. This hope does not disappoint, because God's love has been poured out in our hearts through the Holy Spirit who is given to us. Do you hear how profound that was? I mean, that's why I share these verses, because they're full of these incredible pieces of scripture that just are profound, and they can share so much while saying so little. And in this verse, my favorite part of this verse talks about what affliction does to our character. Now, we all get afflicted in one way or another, whether it's at work or it's at school or it's with our spouses or it's with, our family in general, or whatever it is. Just think about this. All that affliction you go through. Sometimes I'm sure you're very tempted to just throw your hands up and say, why, God? Why me? Why am I being chosen for this hardship? And sometimes I'll have to admit, even I'm not great, and it's impossible for me to understand. I get frustrated and I go, why? Especially when I see some of the evil that I have to sift through here on a daily basis. But this verse here, what it says, it speaks to my soul, and I hope it speaks to yours. And I want you to hear this one more time, because it's really important. It says, affliction produces endurance. Think about that. Endurance produces proven character. And proven character produces hope. Yes, that is it. That is God's greatest gift for us, is the afflictions we go through. And I know that's hard to make sense, but I can tell you that it's made me the man I am today, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of those afflictions. I'm proud of the steps I've taken and the battles I've fought, and how God has delivered me on the other side as a man of proven character and a man of hope. So remember, in this world, affliction may not be the biggest challenge we face. Maybe the biggest challenge we face is understanding how to turn that affliction into an opportunity to prove our character, in order to thereby prove that we are people of hope. So I'll leave it there. If you guys don't take anything else away from this episode, remember, God absolutely loves you. God's grace is greater. And I'll just say it one more time. Affliction produces endurance. Endurance produces proven character. And proven character produces hope. This hope does not disappoint, because God's love has been poured out in our hearts through the Holy Spirit who was given to us. So take that away. I hope that helps you. I hope that touches your heart as it has mine. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, now's a great time to do it. Come here, click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit bell notifications. But I want to say thank you all for watching. This has been another episode. If there are more Q posts, we'll keep you updated. But until next time, I look forward to talking to you guys again. This has been Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.